Okay. All right, all right. LDBC. This is your boy Coach Shelton Harrison with Amazing Eric Sports, and I guess Roger Allen. This is Coach Shelton Harrison Combat Sports Show Live. Gentlemen, how you guys doing this evening?
We are doing great. So excited to be here. Happy to be here to interview Roger. Just happy to be here to be a part of the podcast. I'm really excited about this one today.
Coach Shelton Harrison Combat Sports.
I hear a little echo there. Is that me or is that somebody else?
It was
I
me.
think
I fixed it.
Okay, no worries. Hey, thank you guys for having me. This is Roger Allen. This is Valentina Shevchenko's manager, Antonina Shevchenko's manager. So thank you for having me on your show.
Man, it's great to have you on the show, man. You know, and we talked about what 8 months ago. And I think we did a podcast back then too. And you know, it's good to have you back, man. It's you know, it's a pleasure.
Hey, well, thank you.
Okay. So Eric, you wanna go ahead and just start off with, you know, a question?
I'd like to jump right into it with Roger here. And first, I'd like to tell everybody, the guys coming in, I don't know if you guys said it because Roger is a very humble guy. So I'm going to say this for him the right way. This is the manager of Valentina Bullet Shevchenko. We all know who she is. She's the truth. She's the real deal. Go tell your friends right now to come join this podcast. This is a hot podcast. Everybody needs to be looking at this. Roger, I would just like to start. The first question I'd like to ask you is, first of all, I'd like to say congratulations on the last fight. I know you guys were on the short end of the decision, but fans and people want to know, what are the spirits? Where are Valentina's spirits right now? Is she still like up in spirits? Because a lot of people, you guys thought that she won the fight. Where are her spirits? How is she feeling right now?
Her spirits are they're good. They're very good. Our team, we're upbeat. I mean, we know the future of Valentina. We've already had discussions with the UFC what's gonna happen next, and she did not lose that fight. She's not accepted that as a loss. I mean, a fighter knows if they've lost a fight or if they've won a fight, and she did not lose that fight. So her spirits are high. She's in good spirits. She's healing up, doing a little vacationing, traveling around a little bit, and so she's good.
Hey, oh, go ahead, Eric.
No, go, coach. Go for it.
Okay. So let me ask you, Roger. So what during the fight, when did Valentina, when did she tell you guys, hey, you know, I think my finger is injured?
You know, I was in the corner of the fight, and one of my jobs is I look at the clock. I kind of look at like overall, you know, bits and pieces of like, you know, where we are in the volume of things, of any exchanges or anything like that. And I saw Valentina was, you know, kind of, I saw her kind of just not doing what we had talked about after about, you know, I don't know, a minute and a half or so in that first round. And because she kind of got started, you know, she started aggressively, and then she just kind of quit. And what happened is she had a really severely dislocated finger. Now, at that time, I didn't see it, you know, but when she went into the corner, I saw, you know, her coach Pavel pop the finger back in place. And then after that, she started rolling again. But that's when it happened. It happened, you know, somewhere early to mid of the first round.
So Roger, I was going to ask you, as it relates to this energy, as it relates to this injury, when Valentina dislocated her finger, can we specify which hand it was on? Was it left hand, right hand? Do we know?
It was on her left hand,
mm-hmm.
and it would be on the ring finger of the left hand.
Wow. And she was able to keep going and pushing through that. Now, as the manager, I know you spoke a little bit about your responsibilities. Did you notice panic, like, you know, because these guys here and all the listeners, they want to know the inside, and Valentina, being the professional that she is, did she know? Because we didn't even notice watching the fight, so that kind of answers it. But what did you notice in Valentina once the injury occurred?
No, I mean, you know, since, you know, if you've competed in a fight or something of any sports, you'll notice you know, athletes, they have adrenaline, and she had a lot of adrenaline going in that fight. I mean, all fighters do. And so I don't think she really, you know, at the time, I don't think it bothered her that much, other than when it was sticking out so far. It's just like, you know, knowing it's sticking out, wondering if the ref, I think she just did an interview, and she said, you know, she was concerned if a ref saw it, they would stop the fight. So she just basically fought, you know, one-handed and threw kicks the remainder of that first round. And once she got it popped in, the adrenaline. She had the adrenaline, and she really didn't feel the effects. And then once it got popped in place, she knew that she could close her hand, and then she could start, striking again. After the fight, you could see, wow, that's pretty kind of serious, serious deal. It was severely swollen, and she mentioned over, pretty quickly it turned, deep purple,
Yeah.
from all the trauma of the finger. So that happened, like I said, early middle part of the first round.
So like, why do you think the judges like why are they so hard judging the outfighter? Because we know Valentina can be an outfighter. She's an all around fighter, but the judges are very biased to the outfighter. Like, why do you think these judges were like that?
I don't necessarily think it's bias. And again, this is my opinion. Judging fights, they're not easy. It's always, hindsight's always 2020. Having an instant replays 2020. I can tell you one thing: I've watched this fight more than anybody because we were considering contesting the not the judging verdict, but basically the amount of fouls that were allowed to continue through the fight. But the judging, there's two sets of criteria that the fighters in the UFC are running into today, and one is there's an old set of rules and judging criteria, and then there's the new set of rules. And the new set of rules, we were given instructions, and again, I was in the back when they were given because I was in the corner, about how the fight would, what would be allowed, what wouldn't be allowed, what would be counted, what wouldn't be counted. So if you're told that if you're out just flipping punches and you're not doing significant damage, but a significant punch is going to be one that changes the intent of your opponent, creates a reaction of your opponent, creates visible damage on their face, those are significant strikes. If somebody throws 100 punches at you and they don't hit you, under the new set of rules, if you're throwing effective punches and changing the intent of the other fighter, those are scored higher. That's the rules. It's that simple. You can argue all you want, but how it's applied, but that's the rules. And so the criteria is scored effective striking, effective grappling. That's number one. If everything is considered equal, then control comes into place. There's other criteria that'll come into play, but predominantly that is what the criteria based on the event that we were at. The second issue that we ran into the fight, and I don't know how much it was really paid attention to, but I know, I'm quite aware of it, is one, we were also told, the new rules, if you extend your fingers out like a pitchfork,
exactly,
it is a foul. It might be a foul. It is a foul. And that's done specifically to prevent eye pokes and to prevent injuries that could ruin a fighter's career. And so one of the things Big John told us, back in the back is, look, this is serious. If I warn you one time, take it seriously, because the very next time I warn you, it's a very high probability I'm taking a point away from you. There were 9 warnings given in that fight, 5 in one round, 1 on the way back, walking Amanda back at the end of the second round. Second round's when Valentina's, had her finger pop back in place and she started, being more and more aggressive. And then the third round, the same thing. The fingers were out again, and John, gave her a very stern warning. He gave her a not even a PG-13 warning. He stopped the fight and said, look, close your damn hands. And that's the PG-13 version of it. And she did it again in the fourth round. So that's an issue that we were, that I personally wanted to bring to the forefront. Valentina, she didn't want to, she's just not a fighter that wants to win on any kind of technicality or anything. She wants to, she's a true martial artist. She wants to win by her merit. But that was an issue. And I think we would have had a pretty good cause, commission, they're not going to overturn a judge's decision unless it's just really, really, crazy. I do think in this case, and this is no reflection on any individual judge, I think we're just at a time when you have 2 judging criteria that is difficult to strip that bias away and apply it correctly in a fight. Because even a takedown now, back in the back, we were told, look, you get a takedown, you don't establish any meaningful control, and that's meaningful control is when you get position and inflict damage, that it's not going to count anything. So when you're given all this as how you're laid out of how you're going to fight, the tactics and the execution, that's how you perform in a fight. So
now, Roger, I just wanted to jump in and ask you right here, and I think it is very important for the listeners to understand that this is not just Coach or Eric talking. This is actually someone who's right there on the inside. This is real insider information you're getting. And we do want to repeat, go tell somebody else to join in to this podcast right now. But Roger was just explaining to us the two different, the old school, if you will, form of judging as opposed to what's now the newer form of judging, and how they seem to be at an impasse trying to figure out how they're going to actually dictate and allow these fights to be scored. Roger, the question I want to ask you as it relates to this is, as Amanda was with the fingers. Now, I think, Coach, you and I talked about it. Of course, we all noticed the fingers. Yeah. Was this something that you guys, her corner, were you guys in between rounds, were you guys reaching out and complaining about this to Big John or whoever was there on scene?
As a corner, there's kind of an etiquette with a corner as well. And if we were out there yelling at Big John to do his job, we could have gotten thrown out of the corner.
Okay.
The same. That's just not something that you really, you want to make a habit of. I mean, going forward, I can tell you we're going to have that discussion every fight, and every other fighter should do that. Every other coach should do that, and they should put, like I said, Big John's one of the best in the business. But as is we're all human, and nobody wants to start deducting points during a fight, and much less a championship fight.
Yeah, fight at that level is going to be.
Yeah, so what?
But to be credible about the rules and to have the rules have credibility, you have to make the tough decisions, and sometimes you just have to be a leader and say, you know what, this is BS, and I'm going to jerk the point because I think it was warranted.
So Roger, in your honest opinion, okay, this is not like a trick or anything like that. Why do you think in your mind Big John McCarthy just, for whatever reason, just said, okay, I'm not going to take this point away, even though we both counted? Go ahead.
I can't speak for Big John. Like I said, I think human nature of it is no one wants to intervene and have a negative, outcome on a fight. I mean, it's a tough decision to pull a point, but enough kind of is enough. If you jerk one off 1 or 2 warnings, that's, you would catch heat for it. But at the same time, if a fighter loses an eye and their career is over with, realistically, there's a fine line of owning that. And so, the intent of the rule was for the safety of the fighters. The intent of the rule wasn't to change outcome of fights. But if fighters, like Valentina, watch the fight. A lot of people that make comments on this, they haven't went back and watched the fight. If you go back and watch it, and you start looking at these things, and you look at even photographs of what's online, you'll see that Valentina was striking, and she's not going to make a big deal of this. I'm just telling you my perspective of it is she was striking through like pitchforks with fingers, and you'll see, and she's short as it is, and she has less range. And so, when you're talking about distance management and you're managing through fouls, that even adds to the complication of it. But she's a master, and she did her thing, and we still think she won, even regardless of the fouls. But they were continued and allowed to go from round. They really started in round 2 as Valentina was able to start our offense all the way through round 5.
Now, Roger, I just wanted to jump in and say, first of all, thank you for your, you and Team Shevchenko. You guys are professionals of the highest order, and we really do appreciate that you are trying to still say that Big John McCarthy could have been just a human that night. The human nature could have been taken us, because I just wanted to point out that it's really big of you to do that, because it's easy in your position, because you do feel wrong, and I think you do have a legitimate gripe that you could bring across right here, the way you're handling that. So we do want to say we appreciate your professionalism here, but also we wanted to get to a question that I think is a really good question here. It's from NFS TV, one of our guys that are on listening right now. We know you think Valentina, of course, you know, you feel Valentina won the fight. Could you specify maybe more of a round breakdown, your particular scorecard, the rounds you saw Valentina winning and the rounds you saw Amanda winning?
Sure. That's no problem. You know, I personally, after watching this many times, and I'll tell you, to looking through it through numerous kind of sets of glasses, and one, the most important is looking at it through a non-biased set of glasses. And again, it's easy to look at something, hindsight's always 2020, but the first round, I think without a doubt, it was very close, but I think you could give that to Amanda. I think Amanda got that first round. Round 2, 3, and 4, I think without a doubt, Valentina won those rounds. Round 5, I think Valentina also won that round despite the takedowns. And again, if you use the judging criteria that we were given for this fight, not only given pre-fight, you know, like leading up to the fight, but also as, you know, Big John comes in or the referees come in and they give their what they're going to be enforcing, how they feel about the fight, you know, that's what we were told. So, you know, if Amanda would have taken Valentina down and started raining some ground and pound, I think 100% sure she would have won that last round. But if you look, there was recently you had Johnny Hendricks. He was in a fight, and it may have been with Neil Magny. I can't remember exactly the fighter, but Johnny Hendricks had several big takedowns in a round, and the other fighter was on his back doing damage from his back, throwing elbows off his back, and the other fighter ended up getting the call based on the new rules. So that's where I'm saying I think even the judges are now, I think they're in a kind of in a hybrid transition of getting comfortable with these rules, because one week they could be judging the old set of rules, the next week they're judging the new set of rules. And again, I think, yeah, they're human, and we just, you know, it is what it is.
It'd have been nice if they would have got on board with this fight. You know, it would have been real nice if they'd have done that, you know, but, you know, yeah, it was disappointing, man. But I know TC, you know, he wanted to ask, so what now? What is Valentina's future? Is she definitely for sure going to 125? Is she gonna try to build up a fight base to try to maybe challenge for the title again at 135? I mean, what's going on with that?
Well, if you poll the people out, and about 70% of the people still think Valentina won that fight. A lot, you know, when I was flying out the next morning from the fight, there was a bunch of the UFC staffers that were on our, you know, in the airport with me. You know, of course, you know, a bulk of them said the same. So I don't think Valentina needs to fight anybody at 135 to fight at the title again. She hasn't been beat. She wasn't beat in this last fight. So I think in the short term, since Amanda said she's going to be out for a while, I think Valentina is going to be healing up with some of her injuries. I think the timing of it, I think she will fight next at 125. And when that's the plan right now. That's the discussions that we're having right now about having her fight at 125. And I think when she does, I think when that'll be best for her, because she can now start using all of her tools and all of her strength. She's been fighting up in weight. She's, you know, as you've said before, she's, you know, she weighs in, you know, you typically below 135, and she's
133.8, 134.5. I mean, those have been the weights that she's come in at.
Mm-hmm, sure. So she's fighting obviously bigger girls. Valentina's 5'5", and you know, and now she's going to be fighting basically girls that are her size, and she's going to have the strength advantage for sure when that happens. And she even has she's very strong at 135, not cutting her any credit there as well.
And I think it's important. I think it's really important to point out here that we speak of Valentina a lot of times moving up. And I'm not just saying this to give Roger lip service because he's here, but we speak of Valentina a lot of times being the smaller fighter at 135. But you mentioned 70%. You can find a huge group of people who actually feel like she is the best at 135. So just because she's smaller, I think that speaks to her dominance, that speaks to her ability there. Now, you spoke about something, Roger, I wanted to ask you. You spoke about since Amanda's going to be out for a while. I think the question a lot of people have is, does Valentina, does she feel like I beat her, there's nothing else to prove here? Or does she actually want to get in again with Amanda and get a clear-cut, you know, on the judge's scorecard victory from her?
Oh, she would definitely fight Amanda again. There's no that's not coming from Valentina. She's on board 100%. We asked for a rematch, and we were told she's going to be out for a while. Probably not expect, you know, an immediate rematch. And and you know, I think you've heard, you know, Amanda make some comments. I think she's, you know, she didn't immediately say, yeah, I'm ready to fight Valentina again. So there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of pieces that would have to come back together for that fight to happen again. But we're on board for it for sure.
And see, that's the toughest. And I think Amanda Nunes, she know that, and she even said it, that Valentina, that's the toughest person that she's ever gotten the octagon with. Now she said it. She said it several times. So I mean, I'm kind of almost imagining, golly, okay, I just defended the title from this girl twice, and it was hell. Or no, not twice, but I just had to fight this girl twice, and it was hell in there. And you mean, okay, I got to get back in there with her again? She probably thinking like, man, okay, just, you know, I just need to fight somebody else before I get back in there with Valentina again. I mean, how do you think how do you think Amanda's looking at that? You know, not being on the team.
You know, I can't speak for Amanda. I mean, when you talk about Amanda and Valentina, you're talking about the two best women fighters, two of the very highest level women fighters in the world. Okay?
Absolutely.
You know, and you'll never hear us say, you know, anything different. I mean, you know, that's why when you see the best against the best, you're not going to see a girl mow over another girl, or another woman mow over another woman. That wasn't said. That's my mistake. I didn't mean to say that to you know, shortcut anybody. But but really, when you see these mismatches, I mean, you're going to see, you know, another opponent get just steamrolled. When you have two people this high level, I mean, you saw people saying, well, this person's going to knock, you know, well, yeah, Amanda's going to knock out Valentina, or Valentina's going to do this. I mean, it's high level. You have a chess match going on in there, and you have two people that they hit hard. I mean, Amanda has the one punch power. Valentina she hits harder than most people think. I can tell you that from people that have trained with her, men and women. They're going to tell you her opponents aren't changing their intent because she's not hitting hard. You know, one punch power is very rare for any woman to have. Amanda has that, but if the opponents that she's, you know, been able to do that against are someone that's not near as skilled in striking as Valentina, and that's just not gonna, you know, it's not gonna happen.
I'm glad you touched on that. I'm glad you touched on that, because I've been trying to tell people that when you fighting the best person, when you fight, like, I mean, you're not just gonna rush in there against Valentina. I mean, you got to make adjustments, or you're gonna be, you know, having yourself getting knocked out.
Well, Coach, I think it's important to point out right there, because Roger's actually dropping some nuggets for us right now. And the one thing that he pointed out that I say all the time about combat sports, not just MMA, this applies to the boxing game too. You have different types of power punchers. Amanda Nunes is, of course, a one punch type of puncher. Valentina is what I call these people with respectable power. You see this from the Floyd Mayweathers to the Andre Wards. People can say that they're not knockout punches, but you notice their opponents respect them. Even boxers like Holm, when Valentina hits people, you know, if Valentina could not punch and hurt people at their weight class and strike and hurt people at their weight class, they will walk her down, but they respect her space. Amen. They respect her power. So that lets you know that it's more to this whole combat sports game than just one punch power. It is also a thing called respectable power. Now, Roger, I did want to touch on this with you, because like I said, I know you're trying to keep it professional, but I'm going to try to dig this one out of you just a little bit.
All right.
Now, I'm just going to try to dig. Now, I know you don't want to really get into this, but I really want to ask you your opinion, if you can share with us, because you were there, you were in the octagon after the fight, you were in the press conference. As you looked into Valentina's face, as Team Shevchenko looked into Amanda Nunes, her team, their eyes, do you really think they felt like they won, Roger? You can tell us. Do you really think they felt like they won the fight?
Well, there's no they, it's we. I'm part of no, as a team, there was not one person on our team doubted that Valentina won that fight. So
I'm saying Amanda's team. As you
oh,
guys looked into Amanda, as you looked into the eyes of Amanda's team, I'm asking you, what did you feel from that side? No, I know what you guys thought. You
I
guys
think there was a lot of relief.
okay.
That's what I think. I think there was a lot of relief. I think you could see it. You watch the reaction after the fight. It was like a lottery winner, you know. I mean, really, that's, in the back too. We saw them. They're respectful. I mean, but I think really, when you really win a fight, you know it. You know it. There's no, if you lose the fight, you know it. And in this case, I think you had both fighters. One that wasn't sure that they really wanted. I mean, you've seen a few things, but nothing. You can go on and talk about, I beat her twice, and I'm going to even go back. I'll step you back in some history. When Valentina fought Nunes the first time, no other girl in the top 10 would fight Nunes at all. And so they reached out to us, and Valentina just beat Sarah Kaufman, and we got contacted. Said, look, it's not an easy one, but this will we brought Valentina in to challenge for the title, and this is one that's a tough one, but you guys want it. And Valentina said, sure. She's not one to turn down fight. She said, sure. We, of course, as a manager, I said, you might want another fight or so to start getting more used to MMA, and she's game. She just said, nope, I'll fight her. So that first fight, it was a good fight. You saw the caliber of Valentina then, and she's a completely different fighter now. And she's just gonna get better and better. And she goes to 125. This respectable, power all of a sudden now becomes KO power.
There you go. That's what. Go ahead, Coach. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Eric.
No, I was just gonna actually, Coach. I was gonna actually chime in to you because I know how you are, Coach. I wanted to know from you, Coach, what you thought after the fight, because I want to know. I know you and I talked about this a little off air. We've talked about it a little on podcasts also. What do you felt the tone? Because you saw Team Shevchenko after the fight. We saw the press conference. We saw Team Nunes. Who do you really felt they were the winners in that fight, Coach? What do you think?
Okay, Eric, now you just put me on the spot. So I'm going to ask a question to Roger after that, but you put me on the spot. You got me. Listen, I'm biased, but I'm balanced. Okay?
There you go.
I'm biased, but I'm balanced. And I'm going to tell all y'all, listen, yeah, I'm biased, real biased. I'm a Shevchenko fan. That's just how it is, y'all. So I got to be real with that. But I thought Valentina won the fight after watching the fight 8.5 times, because I fell asleep on the 9th time watching it. But I think Valentina landed more significant strikes. Okay, let's just put it out there. And I think Valentina, she did more. I thought she did. She was, even though Amanda Nunes pressed the action more, I thought Valentina did more in the fight, if you know what I mean. And I thought that she caught Nunes with some good quality shots. I think, looking at Valentina, after the post fight told me everything. She pissed off. It's like, okay, I got to do all this damn work to really get to this point. Okay, the judges don't see my work that I'm doing. Okay, and I'm actually talking for her, because I'm breaking it down. Like, I'm doing all this work. I'm hitting Amanda with some of my best shots, and all she did, she took me down in a round. And you mean that won Amanda the round after I did all this work? BS. BS. And she probably wanted to say it on national TV. BS. It's BS. But I think Valentina really do believe that she won the fight. I thought she won the fight. If I would have thought Amanda Nunes won the fight, I would have said it. Just like the first fight. I said, yeah, Amanda Nunes won that fight 2-1. So I'm realistic, but this fight, this was Valentina. She started out slow, and then she started picking up on Amanda Nunes' timing. And Amanda Nunes definitely, she didn't like them counters. She was hating them counters. Amanda started sticking those hands out. Okay, and I'm still trying to figure out how was John, Big John, going to explain that, but he's not here. But if I ever get him, if I talk, I'm going to say, John, how you going to explain that?
I know you will.
I am. And I'm going to ask him that, because, it's ridiculous. You have to tell somebody 9 times, okay, put your fingers back in. And I'm going to give Amanda her props. Her hand was raised, But how many times do you have to do that? How many times? Okay, I felt like the judges were biased because Valentina was backing up and setting these traps for Amanda. I think they were biased. I think they didn't like the style. I think they were more in tune with pressure fighters, and I think they held that against Valentina. That's my honest opinion. I wish I could interview everybody. The judges, what's your problems? Like, what were you looking at? I mean, come on. Even if the fight was a draw, I wouldn't have
Yeah.
been upset because
Mhm.
the fight it really was that close, But
Mhm.
come on,
Now,
stop this.
coach, let me say this right here. And
Ridiculous,
I want
man.
to say this, and I know Roger will agree. If we have people joining in and people that are going to be listening to this in the next few days that are definitely Amanda Nunes fans, so you're
Can I
welcome here
about that?
too. I know
Can I
Roger would
about
say
that?
the same. I know Roger would say the same thing. Roger will agree with me. So I'm gonna try to give because Coach can go off. That's what Coach does. And we love that about Coach. And I try to give the the other answer. My first response to the fight when I first saw it, I actually thought it was a draw when I first saw it, and so what I started immediately doing, because close fights in combat sports are so, and like Roger said, nobody's watched it more than him, but you can watch a close fight 4 to 5 times and you could almost come with a different scorecard every time. There is an argument to make, I feel like, for Amanda's aggression, but Roger's point, and as you look at it, when I looked at it the second time, times when I was personally awarding Amanda for actually having Valentina down, the work wasn't there once they got down. So as I looked at that, the second time I scored it, I actually scored it for Valentina. As I looked at both fighters afterwards, I will say that's Roger. That's why I really wanted to ask you the question. It's so funny that you said the word. Amanda's team seemed more relieved, like, whoo, this is over. This is over. We got this done. And Valentina, you guys, your whole team, you guys seem like we really, really know we won that fight. But I think the key thing to go on is something Roger pointed out, is when Roger said they were told in the back. And if you guys have just joined in, go back and watch this podcast from the beginning. Roger dropped some very, very, very golden nuggets when he
Yes,
spoke
he
about
did.
the new rules. And that's stuff we don't hear all the time. As the fans, as the listeners, he actually broke down. And Roger, maybe later we'll kind of get you to go through that again. I know you've said it once, but maybe somebody just started into that. And going by what Roger said, it's kind of hard. You guys have a very, very legitimate argument. Now, Roger, as you guys move forward, I think another question that comes up here is, we know Amanda is more than effective at 135, but I heard you mentioning her knockout power and the way she could actually be even more effective and a more effective striker at 125. Future for Valentina, are you guys looking for her to settle in and just take over the 125 division, or are you really wanting to moonlight and do both 135 and 125?
I think we're going to take the best opportunity that comes up for us.
Okay.
For Valentina, not for us, but for Valentina. And right now, since there is a 125-pound division, that seems like the golden opportunity. Like you mentioned before, if you haven't lost the fight, then you don't need to fight anybody to get back to the title.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And that's the way we feel about it. So if that opportunity is not there to fight for the title, we're gonna take the next best opportunity, and that is the title at 125.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Roger, speaking of 125, man, and I really want you to really educate fans on this, because it's almost like when I say it, well, you just saying it because it's Valentina, but the 3 fights with Joanna Jacek, okay, in Muay Thai, and then, they're going to see each other at 125 pounds. Okay, why in your mind do you see Valentina actually beating Joanna Jacek in the octagon as well as in Muay Thai?
Well, history, if you, like Valentina said before, they had their history in Muay Thai. They fought 3 times. They fought in the same division, and that was at 125. And the way those fights happen, they're same day weigh-ins for the fights.
Okay.
And those, there's a lot of things that people don't know about. I mean, Joanna and Valentina, they're friendly. They know each other. They've actually trained in the same gym together during that time when they were Muay Thai fighters. Of course, Joanna had her team and Valentina had her coach and sister. So they know each other. So there's like no animosity or anything between them. But Valentina, she's won 3 times. She ended up moving out of that division and started fighting in a higher weight division. The last time they fought, Valentina was, I think it was, let me get my years straight. I think it was 2008. Valentina was awarded, in IFMA. This is the International Muay Thai Amateurs Federation, or Federation of Amateurs, which is basically now it's been approved by it's one of the upcoming Olympic sports. Hopefully it'll be in the Olympics in the next one or two Olympics moving forward. But it's legit. It's the real deal. People see amateur, they go, oh, as amateur, it didn't mean anything. But let me tell you, those amateurs that compete, when they win those gold medals and go back to their home countries, they may get a yearly stipend that's equivalent in the U.S. to 30 grand. They may get a BMW. They may get a house. And I can guarantee you there's a lot of professional fighters that you're calling professional that don't even scratch that close in a year.
Wow.
Dang.
So it's not as amateur as you think.
Mm-hmm.
That's just someone making comments that they're really not educated about
Mm-hmm.
how high level those events were. And
Tell
still,
him, Roger.
and still
Tell
are.
him, Roger. Tell him, Roger.
So anybody that's willing to tell me a
Amen.
person that's making those or winning those gifts, and they're amateurs, well, then I want to see your definition of a pro.
That's right. Now the Joanna Jędrzejczyk fanboys, hey,
Here you go, Coach. Here you go messing with people.
come jump on the panel today. Come, I dare you. Every last one of y'all.
Hey, you gotta give Joanna credit. I mean, Joanna is a
That's
very
right.
good fighter. Again,
Right.
high level fighter.
Mhm.
They've fought 3 times. I know Joanna said the last 2 are close. That's Joanna saying that, but I can tell you, if you know the fights and saw the fights, they were not close fights.
And see, Roger, this leads me.
I watched them. I watched them all.
And Roger, I wanted to jump in and ask you right here about that. We're talking about Joanna now.
Right.
Your team, Valentina herself. As you guys look into mixing it up with Joanna again, this time, in the UFC and the MMA rules, are you guys just, because what you hear people say, coach might call them fanboys. If you guys know me, I try to respect everybody out here. I always try to respect these guys. I'm just going to call them fans, dedicated fans. The Joanna fans are saying that they sense that there's some nervousness in your team and Valentina herself about actually mixing it up with Joanna again. Where did Valentina? Hold on, Coach. Let's let him answer. Where do you guys stand as far as your confidence level of seeing Joanna in the octagon? How do you guys feel about that?
I think, just like Valentina said, they had their history in Muay Thai, and it'd be great for them to have their history in MMA. I don't think there's any nervousness. The best way for all that to be solved, just like when we were having discussion about Juliana, when we have any kind of disagreements or it's best to be settled in the ring. So the best way to do it is to let those 2 get in the ring and let it to be decided, and then there won't have to be any speculation about it. You can speculate all day, but the truth is shown there. That's the best way. It's just like people speculating that Valentina was going to get knocked out because Amanda knocked out the other people. But you put them in the ring and you see it didn't happen. So that's the best thing to happen.
And Coach, I know you hit on this too.
Go ahead,
I know Coach had hit on this too earlier, and Roger hit on this earlier. We spoke earlier. If you guys are just joining, and if you haven't yet, go tell somebody. Call your friends. They're not doing anything but sitting on the couch eating pizza. Call them and tell them to join in with us and enjoy this podcast. Now, we spoke earlier about the top level fighters when they fight each other, and this is so important. When top level fighters fight each other, you do not see you rarely see a blowout when the best fight the best. Now, as we move on into the future of this, Coach, here's another question for you, Coach. I want to ask you this question, Coach, because as you said, people will say you're a Valentina fan. What do you see happening in the Valentina Joanna fight? Just give us the quick Coach Shelton viewpoint on that fight. Go for it.
Joanna Jędrzejczyk, she has a problem with counterpunches, and Karolina Kowalkiewicz not even the best counterpunch on the planet, and she caught Joanna Jędrzejczyk with a solid counterpunch and could have finished her if she could finish her. Now, what do you think the best counterpuncher in women's MMA? What do you think the best counterpuncher in women's MMA gonna do to Joanna? And I keep telling everybody, this fight is not gonna go to the ground. It's not gonna go to the ground. I don't think it's going to the ground. I think Valentina is the bigger, stronger, faster fighter, and I think she's gonna light up Joanna Jędrzejczyk with the counterpunching. I'm telling you. It's gonna be people. Oh, it's gonna be close, Coach. No, it's not. I think Valentina gonna dominate the rounds.
I think, and to flip the comparison right here, you know, to flip this to, and I'm not necessarily saying that there's a comparison in fighting styles between like a Floyd Mayweather type of fighter or Valentina. When you see these fighters who are technically superior, like Valentina, like Floyd Mayweather, they're usually, it's almost more of a fair fight when they fight somebody bigger than them. But when they're the bigger person, like when you saw Floyd against Pacquiao, when you see, this is what I think is going to happen when we see Valentina, Joanna, when we see Valentina in with people her size and actually even smaller, that's going to be a tough fight for anybody to beat Valentina if at least they don't have the size advantage.
But they meeting in the middle, Eric, because I mean, if you look at it, Joanna Jacek, she's a big strawweight, okay, and she's too big for that weight class anyway. And Valentina is too small for 135 pounds. So guess what they doing? They meeting in the middle. I just think Valentina is the stronger person.
And so Roger, you just want to put it to rest. If you guys notice Roger's confidence, this is when you really know somebody's confident, when they say, "Don't worry about the talk, we'll settle it in the cage." See, because that's basically what Roger told you guys. He just didn't want to say it like that. But what he was really saying to you guys was like, "We will see when the fight starts." And so I think that's a real big thing of confidence. What other big fights do you see, Roger, for Valentina outside of Amanda, outside of Joanna? Are there any other names or any other people you guys have your eyes on?
You know, the interesting thing with Valentina is she's proven herself, so she doesn't have to really start naming anybody. I mean, she's you know, she's fought the best. She stood toe to toe. She stood in the pocket with Amanda Nunes. I want to, you know, she stood in the pocket with Holly Holm. You know, she can stand in the pocket with anybody. But you're talking about big fights. I think she's in a really great space now because she still has that option at 135 pound, you know, for the title there. Going and fighting for the 125 pound title is another option, or you know, fighting Joanna. Those are three big fight opportunities, and she doesn't really have to call out anybody. Those are just kind of like you know, the fans are going to dictate which ones that are, you know, that are something that they're interested in. And when when Joanna tweeted out or said she would step in and fight Valentina, and Valentina said, you know, well, yeah, I'll fight you. I mean, you know, you probably don't know this, but that's probably one of the most tweets that was engaged. You know, the UFC, you know, they measure everything. So I know that the tweet that we put out had over 1.5 million people, you know, respond to that tweet. You know, so the UFC knows the same thing. So it's not like they don't know that people aren't interested in that fight. So we don't have to really, you know, sell that fight. I mean, I think the people have sold that fight. So she has a lot more opportunities than most, and I think you're going to see a lot of her. You're going to see, you know, she has a lot of opportunities. The UFC's, you know, contacted her to do a fair amount of PR, do a fair amount of appearances, and they're going to keep her face in front of, you know, in front of everybody. And you know, she's still one of their, you know, she's one of the top fighters, and there's no denying that, you know, and she doesn't have to down anybody else to prove that. She's already proved that. She's fought up in weight, and now it'll be really exciting to see her go down to her natural weight and then, you know, wreak havoc there.
You said wreak havoc. God,
wreak havoc. I love it. I love it. I love that talk. I love that talk, right?
All right, so guys, let's go ahead, because I feel like Antonina, you know, I'm gonna start really talking about Antonina a lot on this channel, because I even interviewed her, man. So who do you think when Antonina goes to the UFC? Because Roger, you can't hide this from her. I mean, we know she's gonna go. Who do you think gonna be her first opponent when she get there?
Right now, Antonina has no plans to go to the UFC.
Oh man!
Wow!
Come on, man! You ruining my dreams.
No, I'm keeping it real for you. I mean, her plan, she wants to go back and defend her line fight title. She went and had this opportunity that came up to fight in London, and if you got to see her fight, it was an incredible fight. You got to see, you know, she didn't show all her tools. I mean, she didn't have to show all her tools, but I mean, striking, no one's going to strike with her at 135 either.
Look, man, tell Antonina, come on, look, the bantamweight division is there. It's there for you. Come on, all you got to do, you just get in there, and you know, come on, Antonina.
Come on,
what are you doing? I'm
Come on,
excited about this one.
yeah, I think it would be great, Roger. I mean, of course, you guys know, but I think there's actually a great lane for her to jump in and having them both
Man,
fighting at the same time. You know, UFC fans, you guys in the comment section, tell us what you think. We want to see Antonina over on the other side.
So, Eric, did you see her fight? Did you watch Antonina's fight?
Oh yeah, I've actually watched her, and when Coach was first telling me about it, and he interviewed, I went backwards and started watching stuff. So I know
Okay.
about the
Okay.
hands. No, I am very. That's another reason, like Coach, it was is would be very excited to see her over in the UFC because I think
Sure.
she's
Sure.
great.
Well,
Mm,
if you watched her last fight, her last opponent, a very good striker,
mm-hmm,
very legitimate world class. She's a, you know, she was, I think, the Infusion champion. She was the
mm-hmm,
Kunlun kickboxing, you know, K1 champion.
mm-hmm.
She's a legit opponent. It's just like I told Coach before about when we talked about Antonina. Antonina and Valentina both, they're very difficult to deal with on the feet because
Yes.
they will, if you adapt, they will adapt. And
Mm-hmm,
they're going to constantly adapt to you, and you're going to look not so good.
mm-hmm.
It's going to, you know, they can make it. You know, some people make an ugly fight by brawling. They can make an ugly fight by being technical,
That's
but
right.
it's not ugly. It's what it is. It's if you really understand what's going on, like if you understand high level striking and you can see the
Mm-hmm.
footwork and you can see the angles and you can see the different types of counters or strikes that's being employed to neutralize another person's game. It's really high level. It's not if you're a Just Bleed fan, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and that's all you understand, you will never see it. But
Never, never.
if
thank
you
you,
think if you
thank you for saying that.
yeah, if you think those fights are ever boring, I mean, I love technical fights because I'm on the seat because really all it takes is one mistake from the other side and the fight can be over. And it could be just as easily with Valentina and Amanda. You know, if Valentina got behind on slipping punches, if you watch, I mean, her head movement, she slips punches. Amanda would hit
Mm-hmm.
99% of the other people, and she would buzz them
Knock
all.
them out. Yeah,
Right,
or stop them. Or
exactly,
stop
I was
right.
trying to tell people that, Eric. I was telling them. I tried to
them. You do
tell them
too.
that. I was trying to tell
So
them that.
so you know that's like I said, is you have to know what you're dealing with. And Antonina has that same kind of power. She starts hitting people, they don't want it, they don't like it.
That's right.
You know, and they both have different types of KOs. Valentina can KO you anytime with a kick. She has real
Mm-hmm.
strong kicks. Antonina has strong kicks, and she has a little more length, and you know, and all that equates to different types of power at different times and different ranges. But if you don't understand it and you look, you're going to be lost. But if you really study the sport or you understand aspects of it, you can appreciate both of their striking. They're both two of the highest level women strikers in the world.
Again, more golden nuggets from Roch. I don't know if people appreciate these nuggets that are
Yeah.
being dropped here because the technical aspect of fighting, and I have this discussion with Coach and a lot of these guys here in the comment section to where we have a lot of bleed only fans, and that's okay. You know, people want to see the blood. And that's okay. I'm not saying that I'm entertained by those fights too. But if you really can look at the tech, and another thing about, you know, Coach, you mentioned Valentina's and even Antonina's too. Their counter striking ability. Another thing that respectable punchers do, that they make opponents put their hands in their pockets because they don't know when that counter strike is coming. And trust me, it does not feel good to get hit by that punch. So that's why you see when technical fighters get into fights, a lot of times the fight slows down. The fight is actually slowing down, not because it's a boring fight or Valentina is running from Amanda. It is just that Amanda is a little bit wary of attacking her because, like Roger pointed out, some of the punches that Amanda was throwing, and that's why it turned so tense because it's such high level. You have Amanda Nunes there, super
Mm-hmm.
high level. You have Valentina there, super high level. Anybody who makes a fraction of an inkling of a mistake, it could be lights out. So that's why it turns so intense, and that's why the fights go like that. Roger, one more inside thing maybe you can share with us, because I heard when the Klitschko brothers, the great Emmanuel Stewart, the late great Emmanuel Stewart, said that their sparring would turn really physical really fast, and they would almost have to break it up. What about Antonina and Valentina getting it on in sparring? Do they really go after each other? What do those sparring sessions look like?
Well, they they do get, you know, at times it does, they spar intensely. I mean, coach, you know, or Coach Pavel Fedotov, he's very good at he's very good at having his fighters peak at the right time and going through the course of training. So they have some very specific methods that they use in training, and it goes with intensity or type of training. But rarely is there wild sparring or just mad sparring. A lot of it's very, very, I guess you would call it, specific type of sparring, and then it evolves and where it gets a little more free. But when it's intense, it has a very short duration to prevent injuries. But yeah, I mean, I've seen them, and say, for example, UFC 213, we were in Vegas and they were having a sparring session and they were cut loose, for a minute and a half, and Valentina went into beast mode, so to speak. So I mean, it's I mean, you get to see that. Antonina, same way. But she's, their sparring sessions definitely are physical. I mean, they've sparred. I mean, if you ever interview Rose Namajunas or JJ Aldrich or Shannon Sin, she fought for Legacy, just won her last fight. There's a couple other. There's a couple other. No, not that. I mean, but just training in general, and then also there's been some that have come in and lasted a day and left that are, they've trained and thought they thought they had seen high level training before they come in, and I'll be honest with you, they're in way deeper water than they thought, and they didn't stick around. So it's real. That's why I'm excited personally about Rose fighting. I'm going to throw you a curveball because I got to see Rose come in, and she's been swimming in deep water for over a half a year now with training with Valentina. So she's trained with not only Valentina but Antonina, and Rose, I think she's going to do real well in her upcoming fight.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you a question about Rose, but then I got to get back to. I got one more question to ask you about Antonina. Okay, and I'm gonna do this for who was that who asked the question?
PCB.
Yeah, PCB. What's that? Peanut butter cheese jelly? What that stand for?
I think it's cheese, bacon, and ham.
He says, He says, who do you think will win the Joanna versus Rose Namajunas fight, Roger?
Personally, and I'm biased. I'm going to tell you now, I'm biased.
I understand. I'm
going to do that. But when I'm going to tell you a quick story. It won't be long. But when I first bumped into Rose, and we were up there, and we were going to train at their gym. I mean, we had some ties because of some of the jiu-jitsu coaches, and we went to her gym, and we were really just planning on using the facility and using some guys. And Rose she was persistent about training with Valentina. She is just like, they came and asked me and said, hey, what about Rose? I said, really, Valentina, it's tough. Most of the girls, they can't handle a week, much less a full training camp. So we don't know. But Rose was persistent, and she dove into it. And I tell you what, she blossomed. She grew. So I got to see her from when, it was December of 2016 to where she started, like mentally, physically, technically, all these things where she was. And, there were things that just weren't connected with her at the time. They weren't, she's technical, she's, she's physical, the mental, at times she can be strong. But through the course of these camps, all that started to coming together. And then you had the hype of the karate, fighting Michelle Watterson. And I told Coach, from the beginning, I told him, I said, I think Rose is going to knock out or submit, Michelle Watterson, and I don't think he was on board with it.
No, come on.
You didn't believe it, Coach. You're gonna learn to listen to Roger. Listen to Roger, Coach.
So
come on, man. You can't bring up the past like that.
but see, you don't know. I mean, I'm an insider. I get to see the training. I get to see what's happening. I get to see I get to see a fighter, cry. I get to see them, push past where they thought they were going to push past. So I get to see all this kind of stuff. So it's like having insider information at a trading on Wall Street.
Exactly.
So when I see what fans say, they're basing something from a year ago or 2 fights ago or something. They don't see Rose on a day-to-day basis where we got to see it. And so they've trained together, I think 20. I think I talked to Pat, Pat the other day, and said, they've trained 26 weeks of fight camp together. That's pretty strong. You know, that's not easy. That's not just hanging out in the gym and sitting around BSing and, you know, doing technical rolling and, you know, listening to the, you know, music and headphones and drinking Gatorade. That's in there getting it and sweating and bleeding and crying and, you know, everything. So Rose has really grown. So, of course, I'm just based on what I know of the two fighters and what Rose can do, I think Rose is going to win that fight.
Now, Eric, Eric, I got this question. I got both of y'all, man. Look, this is big coming from me because I'm not a Joanna Jacek fan, but I think Joanna Jacek wins that fight. I just do. I just think she wins that fight. Like I don't know. It's something about her skill set that I can't deny, because every time I go against Joanna Jacek, I always end up losing. Now, of course, I wanted to lose, but I cannot deny this woman's skill. This woman is skillful, okay?
Of course,
I mean,
absolutely, very skillful, very skillful.
She handled some great takedowns against Carla Esparza, where most of those takedowns Carla would have had the upper hand. Joanna Jacek not only does, you know, with no ground game, she gets back up, okay? She completely just picked Carla Esparza apart, okay? She went in there, she picked Jessica Andrade apart. I'm talking about picked apart. I mean, I keep telling people she knocked the mullet on the other side of Jessica Andrade's head. She was beating Jessica up so bad, like, and I've never seen anybody do that to Jessica Andrade, never. And so when I saw that, I'm like, man, okay.
As a jab, though, did a lot of that. That was just a straight jab.
But the way she did it, man, it was pretty. Roger,
it was. I was there. I was in the stands. I was there. So it was great.
But if Rose do it, Roger, I will say, you know what? Roger Allen has a plan. I won't say Pavel anymore. I won't say Pavel. You know, I'm gonna look past Pavel. But Eric, what I wanted to ask you, man, this is what I want to ask you. Okay, so when Valentina, let's say, okay, when Rose go down and they have that fight, first of all, who do you think is gonna win the fight? And then number two, why do you think that person win the fight?
Are we talking Rose and Joanna?
Yeah, Rose and Joanna Jacek. I wanted to hear what you thought about that.
I'm gonna say that's another pick'em fight for me, but I'm gonna say I started this on the side of Joanna. I did. I would say that Joanna, I was picking Joanna, but I'm a person, I listen to inside information. I take it, you know, if somebody's giving me something from the inside, and to hear, and someone else here in the comment section mentioned that Rose is an emotional fighter. You know, she brings a lot of emotion into her fight game. To hear what Roger said, to hear Roger break it down, I would say my first pick in the door would be Joanna, just for the technical and also the Andrade fight. She showed me levels of her game that I didn't know she had. I just think the whole package of what Joanna had, to me, I would say if I had to be forced for a pick, I would pick her. But listening to Roger and listening to the person who's been in there for those many rounds with Valentina, and knowing the beast, the level that Valentina is, it makes me sway my pick a little bit more toward the middle. So this, to me, has now become a pick'em fight. But my original pick was Joanna. Not by a lot, but I did pick her. I thought all around she would be too much.
Go ahead, Roger. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I'm not here to sway you guys because you know that's a fight I wouldn't mind betting on. You know, but again, it'll be revealed here pretty soon. They're going to be fighting soon, and you'll get to see it. But I think people really, you know, when you start hearing people talk about Rose and about different things, you know, there's no doubt. I mean, Rose will tell you herself she's an emotional fighter. I mean, she is, but she's blossomed, she's matured. I mean, and those are things that are, you know, when you train at the intensity that she's trained at for that long, there are things that, you know, a fighter can always have a doubt. Well, you know, how's my clinch? You know, yeah, when I fought Carolina, my clinch was weak. And I think you guys have touched, I think you touched on that, but she's trained with the best clinch fighter for a half a year.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That experience is valuable.
Here's my thing, though. See, Rose not Valentina. And granted, you know, she can train with the best clinch fighter. And you know, I could be wrong with this, but when Valentina get hit and Rose get hit, don't they react totally different? Because I think, I don't know. See, Valentina been hit very hard. When she got popped by Amanda Nunes, I'm like, God, dog, that shot would have like knocked anybody off their feet.
Ended the fight.
But
it would.
Valentina stayed calm. And see, I don't know, because in the past I've seen Rose take a shot and she ain't remain calm. Like it's like she started getting frantic. And I'm like, okay, I just don't know. I think it's certain characteristics that Valentina possessed, because I mean everything for Valentina been hard. She's not a cold person, but Valentina is ice cold. Like I'm talking about
Yeah.
ice.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, she's right there.
Well,
And I think it's when you can start comparing these two. It's kind of unfair to Rose, to a certain point to compare, because when you are speaking about Valentina Shevchenko, you are speaking about like a person who I think about a scramble in the first Amanda fight, when Amanda, you guys probably know the one I'm talking about. Amanda caught her with a good shot and jumped on top of her and mounted her at this time. I saw Valentina immediately collect herself, and I'm thinking so many other times you see these ladies break down when they get hit with Amanda hit them with. You saw her collect herself. So I think the question coach is raising here is that what is going to happen when Joanna actually lands that blow on Rose? Like, is Rose going to be able to collect herself emotionally, physically, and get past that?
I think you're going to see on November 4th when they fight. I think you're going to see the truth.
I love it, Roger. I love it. I love when you talk like that, Roger. I love that quiet confidence. I love it.
Hey, well, like I said before, I'm going to go back and say this: is I've seen Rose spar with Valentina, I've seen her spar with Antonina, and Antonina is bigger, and Valentina is bigger than Rose, and I've seen Rose eat shots.
Madison, maybe you have to turn that down. I'm on a live podcast.
And so, that's just based what I know. I'm going with Rose. I'm riding with Rose.
You're riding with Rose. I hear you. I hear you. Well, there was a question.
I'm not going to sway you, sir.
Well, and Coach Plus, you and Roger have been. You guys had. I don't mean to bring it up again, but the Michelle Watterson thing. Let's just say that happened.
Man.
I'll leave it right there. I'll leave it right there. Let's just say that happened. So there was a question. I think my man Vu Jin brought this question up, and it was a really interesting question. The Rose sparring with you guys, team sparring with Valentina, is that something that was just a one-time thing, or do you think that will continue? Will she keep working with you guys, or was that just a one-time thing?
No, it wasn't a one-time thing. I mean, we're friends with our groups are friendly. I mean, Valentina has been through 3 fight camps up there. She did her one with Juliana Pena because we were fighting in Denver. So I actually played football in Colorado, so I knew that altitude is a big deal.
Oh yeah.
So Valentina had trained in altitude in Kyrgyzstan and in Peru. So she's fought in Mexico City, so she knew as well. So we were there for 8 weeks, just a little over 8 weeks in Colorado, and then afterward we were fighting in Vegas. And Vegas has its own unique climate as well. It's dry. It's not super high, but there's something about Vegas. It's kind of like a tweener place. So we decided to have our camp back in Denver for that. And so then after the first fight got canceled for 213, then we came back to Houston. We're here. I think we were here for a week or a week and a half, and then we packed up and drove back up to Denver and started training back up in Colorado again. So I think it'll continue. I think it'll be something that we continue to work together. I mean, it seems like a good fit. I mean, Rose, she's a monster for 115. I mean, she blossomed. I mean, she really. I mean, one of my business partners, he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and he's worked with Rose and trained with Rose. Rose has really good coaches. So, she has Tony Basile down at 303. He's the owner of that gym. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, great coach. And then she has Trevor Whitman's her striking coach. And he's the one that's on the Ultimate Fighter right now. I mean, he's back in Denver, but the show was filmed with Justin Gaethje. He was one of the coaches on that show. So, during that time, Rose was training a lot with us while Valentina was preparing for 215. So I think it'll continue. I think we'll continue to work together. I mean, there's kind of a bond between those two, and they're very friendly, and it's just a good fit. I mean, and I think you'll see the result come, the fight in New York.
Awesome. And another thing I was going to ask you, and this is kind of going to just going back to something we already covered. We speak about Valentina and where you guys feel about Valentina. Now, let's say Valentina starts back into the 125 and she has a couple of fights there and Amanda comes back. Do you see Amanda now just kind of dominating that? Basically, if Valentina's not there, do you think Amanda's just going to be the dominant fighter there at 135?
You know, no offense to any of the other fighters. I just don't see any of the other ones, you know, and I reserve the right to be wrong. But right now, I just don't, you know, I just don't see any of them right now being any match for Amanda. You know, not that she's going to blow them out, but I mean, she's just got a very deep tool set. And if you really are honest and you look across, there's just not many that have that deep of a tool set.
What do you think about that, Coach? What do you think about? Do you think if Valentina kind of puts her focus on 125, do you think it's anybody at 135 who can challenge Amanda, or is it just hers for the taking?
I'm gonna tell you, the only person that's coming into my mind, you know, that's Caitlin Vieira. You know, if you know she actually, you know, she maybe in a year or two, I think she may be able to maybe go the distance with Amanda. I think Caitlin Vieira, she's definitely up and coming. She's young, and I think she'll give Amanda Nunes a tough fight because, you know, the girl got a chin. Her BJJ skills are very good. And I think she can go in there and give Amanda a tough fight, you know. But it's going to, you know, the conditions for Caitlin Vieira it's going to have to be perfect conditions, you know. Like, she can't make a mistake. Like, you can't go into the octagon against a high-level opponent such as Amanda Nunes or Valentina. You can't make mistakes because I always say it on this channel, if you make a mistake, you got to pay.
That's right.
Just how it is,
That's
you know?
right. That's right.
If you make a mistake, you're going to pay. And, you know, these two fighters, in my opinion, they're two of the top 3 fighters in the entire world. So Caitlin Vieira, with maybe another 12 months, I think maybe she would provide a tough matchup, but I don't think she beats Amanda. There's one fighter that I'm never going to let off the hook for this one, that could go in there and actually challenge Amanda Nunes. There's one.
Uh-oh, here we go.
There is one. And I've interviewed this woman, and you know, she's a little stubborn, but that's okay because, you know, a lot of these Kyrgyzstan women, they're very stubborn. But I will get to it. She fights Muay Thai, been doing MMA her whole life.
Roger's already laughing.
Antonina Shevchenko is not off the hook for this. I mean, she can't get off the hook. Not only do I think she can go in there and cause a ruckus in the bantamweight division, I think she can ascend to the top of the division, you know. I think, and I hope that she has a come to Jesus moment. Let's go ahead and let's get the thing done. So we, the fans, can see her do what we know that she's capable of doing.
Well, I think I know I can feel Roger over there like putting that mute button on. Don't put mute on, Roger. Don't unclick mute. But coach is not gonna let it off the hook because I actually think that, you know, like we said earlier, I think Antonina can really make some noise. Some of the guys in the comment section, they can really make some noise. But Coach, since we're on stuff that you like to talk about, we're gonna ask Roger about something else now that I know you were gonna be interested in this. There's a fight that is being discussed, and it doesn't have one of your fighters in it, Roger, but there's a fight that is being discussed between Holly Holm and Chris Cyborg. And I know Coach is ready to get. What do you think about that fight if it happens? How do you see that fight? If Holly Holm actually takes that fight, how do you see that fight playing out?
That's an interesting question. I think, first of all, the fight has to happen, and they're going to have to come to terms with the money, and I think that's going to be the biggest challenge. I think, you know, because personally, I wouldn't, if I was Holly's manager, for that fight to happen, there was going to have to be some serious green. You know, that's going to be a green fight.
Thank you for saying it. Thank you for saying it, Roger. That's keeping it real, and I appreciate you keeping it real like that.
And the reason, there's a couple reasons. Is one is, you know, obviously Cyborg, she's a draw, and two, she's a dangerous opponent.
Absolutely.
And you know, especially if you're going up and fighting. Somebody's echoing again, I think, in the background.
Okay. Well, let's see if we got an echo going. Madison, turn that down. Turn it down.
Hey, Madison, stay in
school. I'm sorry. My daughter just came with that. I am so sorry about that.
Hey, no worries. But no, I think it's an interesting fight. I mean, if you look at Cyborg, when we talk about tools and you talk about the best of the, best in the world, she's one. I mean, and erase any of all the, bad publicity or anything. If you look at Cyborg and you look back at time, she's a complete fighter. She's a good wrestler. She's a good jiu-jitsu player. She's a good striker, Muay Thai. I mean, she has movement. She strikes off angles. I know some of her coaches, so, that have worked with her out of Houston here, so again, I have a little inside information on that kind of stuff. I'm not intimate with her camp, but I know some of her coaches and know how they operate. So I think she has everything it takes to beat a lot of people, if not everybody, at 145. I think she's going to be there for quite some time with that title and in her possession.
And I think it's really important. I think it's really important, like we said, that, and I just want to apologize. I said down, I actually thought I was on mute. So I apologize, you guys had to hear that. I'm sorry about that. But I think it's really important that we're speaking to a manager here. We're speaking to a top-level professional manager, and what you brought up about it being a green fight. I think that's really important to point out, Coach. We've talked about this. When you take on these challenges, especially like a Holly Holm, I said in a video of mine that this is the type of fight that if she takes this fight, this could effectively be the end. This could kind of be like my ride off, and I'm just saying, I'm just being real. This could be like my ride off into the sunset. And if you're going to get in there and you're going to do that, I think too many times people say that that's fear and people say that you're being a coward. But I know you can speak to this, Roger. This is a business. This is how these ladies, this is how they have their livelihood. They have to set up their future too. Sometimes I think we as the fans, we as people watching, we think that the only thing we want to do is see them get punched in the face and see them punch other people in the face and kick other people. But we have to understand that this is a business. So if you do something that has high risk, there has to be high reward. That doesn't mean a person is a coward. That doesn't mean a person's team is a coward. But if it's a high risk, there should be high reward. What do you think about that, Coach?
I've been saying this for a while, and before I get going, shout out to my boy Lavelle Williams. He in the audience, and I know he kind of he's listening quietly, but I've been saying that this is about money because Chris Cyborg and Holly Holm, they're friends, okay? They're friends, and you can see all the multiple photographs. I wouldn't even be surprised if they done talk behind the scenes about, hey, let's make this a big money fight. And I think it is about green for Cyborg. That's why she calling Holly Holm out in these, particular ways. Like that video. That video was classic, man. I laughed so hard at that video, man. I watched it 3 times and I can't stop laughing now. I'm still laughing. But it's very unique how Chris Cyborg is calling out Holly Holm. But really, this wouldn't have started if Mike Winklejohn hadn't went on his diatribe, because Mike was saying, yeah, Holly will get in there and pick Chris Cyborg apart. And I'm like, well, dang, Mike, okay, well, I don't see it. Yeah, I like Holly Holm. I'm not really excited about this particular fight because
me either.
I think Cyborg goes in there, and I think she gonna, like, how people toy with their food, they play with their food for a little bit, before they kill it. I think she's gonna go in there, she's gonna toy with the food, she's gonna play with it a little bit, and then she's just gonna take a big bite out of it and devour it whole like a lion. And that's just how it's gonna happen.
Oh my God, Roger, you don't have to say anything, Roger. Don't even worry about saying anything. Because coaches on a lion play with food. Now I will say this because it's something that we brought up about, about taking these kind of fights. And one thing Roger pointed out that I think is really key, because we talked about what Winklejohn said, and I don't know if he's her manager and her coach. I think he's just her coach. But I like the fact that when teams, I think it's very important, and Roger, you can speak on behalf of this. Is a question for you. How important is it for the whole team to be moving in the same direction and on one accord, saying the same type of things? Because, when Winklejohn said that, it did start, kind of this little firestorm around it. And I'm not asking you to speak on him. I'm asking you to speak on you guys. How important is it for you guys, for the management, the coaches, the fighters, for all you guys to be moving on one accord and speaking the same language?
No, I think it's absolutely, it's imperative that teams are that way. You can't, with anything, whether it's in business or a sports team or an individual competition where there's a bunch of support, support behind the scenes. I mean, you all have to be on the same page, and as you get higher and higher level, that sometimes gets more and more difficult to manage. So, but I think it's imperative. I mean, John, I guess Coach Winklejohn, he's kind of been the spokesperson for Holly. Holly's manager, he kind of more behind the scenes. He says stuff, occasionally, but definitely he speaks on her behalf quite often, and he has the avenue to do so with certain podcasts and certain media that you develop relationships with. I mean, it's just if we want to say something, we can dial people up and start having a conversation, and next thing you know, it's out in the public, and he can do that as well. So I'm sure whatever they're talking about, there's a strategy behind it. The first with a big fight, I mean, one of the strategies I'm sure on their parts, let's start talking about it. And if they're not where they are with the money, I mean, the best, they've done it before, it's not the first time. You go to the public and rattle the public and see what the fans have to say about it, and see, if the fans want the fight and they start raising enough cane about it, then it may work out her way to get what she wants. But it wouldn't be, I'm certain there's smart people behind Holly, and they're going to want to get what they feel is a fair deal to fight Cyborg.
That's right. Now, how do you guys now, as it relates to you, you brought up something important, I think, because again, I'm trying to bring out all the insider information we can for our listeners here. How do you guys go about choosing fight? Coach, I think somebody might need to click the echo. I hear the echo myself right there. So how do you guys go about choosing the fights? Do you guys wait for a challenge to come to Valentina, or you guys kind of strategically go through and see what the fans want the most? So you checking the Twitter and the Instagrams? How do you guys go about who Valentina fights?
No, I think, and especially on this channel, from hearing some comments about who ducked who, or this person's done that, is there's like a fundamental misunderstanding how fights, come about. I mean, fighters, they can start Twitter beefs and all that stuff, but it may not be what the matchmakers want. Ultimately, it boils down to what goal they have. I mean, they're going to look at rankings. There's certain kind of protocols. As rarely does a loser fight a winner. I mean, a lot of times they're trying to match up someone that's coming off a loss with, a championship fight, or fighting somebody else that's coming off a win. And if you look at, just look at history, rarely does that happen unless you're Ronda Rousey. It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And that's just the fact of it. I mean, they're not going to play someone where, you're coming off a loss, pairing somebody with a win. They're going to look at rankings. They're going to look at styles. They're going to take they have their formula that they use, and there's always a storyline, or there's always something that ultimately you want to have contenders that are credible challengers for the title, and the best way to do is put good fights together and then have people show their skills. I mean, at 215 we had a good fight. Caitlin Vieira fought Sarah McMahon, and she won.
Yes, very good fight.
She won. And then you had lower in the card you had Sarah Morris fight Ashley Amber Smith. I mean, so there's always fights that are happening. I mean, I think if you look now, they have most of the fights booked out to somewhere around January or something, or they will shortly. So, the process starts early. I mean, it's about you start the conversation with the matchmakers. They start telling you what they have in mind, and then say, yeah, I'm up for whatever, and then they start trying to make it happen. I mean, just like last year was very difficult for Valentina. She had so many people duck her last year that it was just ridiculous, before she ended up fighting Juliana Pena. I mean, it's almost embarrassing, some of the ones that did, and they had no valid reason to do it. And like Coach has said before, is in the contracts, the matchmakers, if they want to, and I think they're pretty, I can't speak for them. You never know what happens, but if someone starts being too picky with their fights, or they start turning stuff down, they can get shelved if there's no valid reason for them not taking a fight. So
yeah. And Roger, well, let me ask. These are two questions for you, Roger, and then Eric, you know how you do it, man. Just chime in. Okay. Well, Lavelle made a good point. He said, Holly definitely is looking to make $1 million to 1.5 million for this fight, and if she's not making that, the fight probably won't happen. So I just want to hear what do you both think about that. We'll start with you first, Roger, and then you next, Eric.
No problem.
You know, I say more power to her. You know, I mean, you can't, you know, if you're going to be a you know, proponent of women's MMA, you need to support every woman that can make as much as she can, because every woman on the roster is battling, you know, they're battling with trying to make as much as they can, or even equal pay of the men. Not necessarily starting, but when you start talking middle tier, you get in that upper tier, then the pay starts getting, you know, there's a difference in pay, and that's just, you know, that's just a fact. It's not a knock or anything. It's just a fact, and hopefully every day that the women can make some advancement to where ultimately they will be getting, you know, equal pay. So that's just a matter of fact. There's only one woman to really jump up and you know, set this, you know, where she was able to make more than, you know, than most of the men, and that was Ronda Rousey. But the others are, you know, hopefully that changes for everybody. But that's a fight that has to, every manager, every fighter has to start thinking about every day.
Well, my point, first of all, shout out to Lavelle. What's up, bro? Great, you know, Lavelle. I love talking any of this combat sports talk with Lavelle. My feeling on it is absolutely just like you, Roger. More power to them. If they can get 2 million, get 2 million. That's how I see it. I mean, get as much as you can possibly get. I've already spoken on that. I've already spoken on the reasons as to why I think she needs to get the most money. I won't repeat them, but I think Holly needs to get paid, and Cyborg needs to get paid too. And I think Roger hit on something very key, that the women don't get that type of pay, and we all feel, all of us are fans of the sport, and the women that participate in the sport, that they do, and we would like to see the sport continue to evolve to a place to where they can make the type of pay that they absolutely should make. And let's not even say the type of pay that the men make. Let's not even say that. Let's just say the type of pay they deserve. They should make exactly what they deserve, and we want to see it move on to that point. Roger, another thing, because I think you can give us a little bit more of an insider's information on this. A duck, when somebody ducks your fighter, someone is ducking Valentina, because I just don't take Valentina to be the type to duck a lot of people. But how does the standard, how does the standard duck work behind the scenes? Like, how, because we don't, you know, we have a lot out here. What's the, you don't have to call out any specific team by name, but what's the normal way you know that a fighter is ducking Valentina?
Well, one is just for them to flat out say no. Some may say hell no.
Wow.
No. I mean, ultimately, when they have the conversation, just like we do with the matchmakers, they're offered you know, they have a contract, and unless you're a big name or unless you're fighting for a big fight, you're not gonna. You have a contract in place. You know what you're going to get paid. So there is no, you know, you're not going to get a wiggle room of well, I'm holding out for more money, or I'm doing this. They're not going to have it.
Yeah.
You know, if you're a superstar, then you can do that. But if you think you're a superstar, you're going to get. It's not going to happen. So bottom line is they're going to offer an opponent, and if they say nope, we don't like that matchup, they just send you a letter and say, you know, we're gonna sit you for 6 months and extend the length of your contract, you know, for 6 months. So basically it's like, okay, you don't want to get paid, you know. And so if you're making, you know, some of those fighters can make anywhere bottom end from, you know, 20 grand a year to up to, you know, whatever. But if you're, you know, not on the top end of the scale and you start ducking, you know, you start cutting that in half, you know, that's pretty slim.
Okay. So this a question. Okay, Roger, I'm going to ask you the question since you're Antonina's manager, because
here he is, Antonina again.
What you know, I think out of Shevchenko's sisters, I think Antonina probably, I favor Antonina a little bit more, you know, just because I just like the Muay Thai matchups. But seriously, somebody in the comment section asked, what is next for Antonina? And then, Eric, I want you to answer the question thinking like, what do you think should be next for Antonina?
Okay, go for it, Roger.
What's next for Antonina is the plan is for her to continue to defend her lion fight title. We were hoping that she would defend that between now and the end of the year. We're having some talks about that. If not, it'll be, you know, early part of 2018. But we're hoping it'll be here in the next couple months before the end of the year.
Well, I think going into that, what I think would like her plans to be, we're talking to a man who knows the plans, and of course what we think and what we would like to see. I'd like to see her continue into her in the course she's on. But I will say this, Roger, the UFC, we would love to see her in the octagon. We would love to
yes,
see her.
good. I'm glad you said it. Good.
I got your back, coach. I got your back. We would love to see her in the octagon because I think she would make for great fights. I mean, different fights just pop in my head with her. And the thing about, I think one good thing about both Antonina and Valentina is they're so versatile. They can compete in these different weight classes and in different disciplines, and they can do different things. And I don't see anything wrong with Team Shevchenko, Roger, and you guys taking advantage of all of those. I'm a person to believe anywhere you can go and make it happen in that place. So I do think that, you guys have Antonina going in a great direction, but I'm going to chime in one more time, and then we'll leave you alone about this. I don't know. I will. Maybe Coach won't, but I will.
Man, I'm never going to leave him alone.
But we would like to see her, we would love to see her in the octagon.
Yes. Amen. I couldn't have, I could have preached a sermon on that one. That was good.
Well, I think that one thing I keep saying, I say this over and over because it's so good to have people on who actually can give us the inside information, because we hear a lot of times how, this fighter ducks this fighter. And one thing I think you said, Roger, I want you to touch on this to kind of let us know. Just because somebody goes on Twitter and calls somebody out, there's a lot more to making a fight than that, right?
Oh, there's a whole lot more to that. There could be, that's what the fans see. I mean, I'm not even going to go deep into that, but I've seen some on this channel get really hung up on, well, so-and-so was looking for a fight, and so-and-so is looking for a fight, and this person didn't have a fight. And it's so low level. It's not even worth commenting about, because it's a total lack of understanding of the process and how it works and how the UFC works. They may, the fight has to be intriguing. It has to be, and it has to fit what they have planned. And their goal, Coach has said this before, their goal is to maximize every opportunity dollar-wise that they can with matchups. And so if it happens that there's two fighters that are going to make a big fight that they think is going to be able to be a headliner and it's going to bring a lot of eyes to the fight, then that's the one they're going to make. If two others that are looking for a fight and hadn't had a fight and they're whining about a fight, or they may have turned down fights, they may have been injured, coming off an injury, that and some may be talking about fighting somebody and then have no intention of actually fighting. There's a whole combination of things that go into that. Just because they're talking on Twitter, you cannot believe what they're saying. What's the reality of the situation?
Because that's used as a tool just as much. Because it's interesting for you to say that, because a lot of times I wondered how many times has somebody went on and said, I want to fight Valentina, and then you guys actually try to make the fight and then they back out of the fight. So they really didn't want to fight her in the first place. They were just saying that to get their buzz going, basically.
Man, ain't nobody talking about they want to fight Valentina. Man, they running from Valentina ass. Ain't nobody talking about that, man. Come on.
Well, in general, no, not that. But in general, how many times do we see in the game that these fighters come out and say, and this is in boxing too, how many times do people go out and say, I want this person, but then once the fight actually starts into the process, there's a popular one out there, Coach, that you like to talk about a lot, when a certain girl was on with Ariel and the Cyborg call up to we all know where I'm going. We all know where I'm going, and we'll leave it right there. But
the one that was scared. Yeah, you talking about Megan and
you said, I didn't say it. You said it. Coach said it.
I said it.
Coach said it. But what I'm saying is, we know that sometimes people say they want things, and once the wheels start to turn, they don't really want what they said they wanted. So it was interesting to hear, Roger break down, how many times they've been ducked and how ducking actually happens, and how much the things that get filtered to us as fans, as listeners, we shouldn't really believe everything we hear just because somebody's saying that.
No. Because until you sign on the dotted line, all the rest is noise.
There you go.
So so that's the reality of it. Just like until you fought in the UFC, you're not in the UFC.
Yeah, that's true.
I've said that. I mean, that's, and so, you can talk about it. You can be a prospect that's signed. But until you go and you fight, you're not a UFC fighter. That's the reality of it. And I like, the person that you're mentioning. I think she has a bright future.
Me too. Me too.
So I don't know that situation. It seems very odd. It seems odd but there's probably more to the story than what you guys know about, and it may be something that's completely valid, and it's something that's just personal that doesn't want to be aired out, and it may not be anything that you guys would even speculate on. So in all fairness, like Megan, since you guys don't want to say her name,
I said Megan Anderson.
I think you got to take all that in consideration. Do I think it's the right time for her to fight Cyborg? I personally don't think it's the right time for her. But I like her as a fighter. I think she.
Me too. Huge fan.
Yeah. I'm a fan of hers. So
as a fan of hers, I'm actually glad. I'm just going to be real with you guys. I'm glad the fight didn't happen as a fan of hers, because I think that fight, if she needed some more developing before she actually got to that fight. So I'm actually, as a fan of hers, I'm really look at coach talking about man. Go ahead, coach.
Man, come on, man. I've been saying that, Eric. I done said that 1,000 times, and I'm gonna tell you, man. She got trapped, and thanks to Area Hawani, it's all his fault. And she was talking that junk, and then Cyborg called into the show, but I think he set that up. But Chris Cyborg old school. If you're gonna say my name, then let's go ahead and fight. We ain't gotta talk. That with the Angela Magana situation, but I think Megan felt pressure. She felt like she had to say something because she didn't want to look like a coward in front of all her fans. And then when the fight was approaching, and it's like, okay, dang,
I think there might be more to the story, but I'm just giving I'm giving the benefit of the doubt. I'm not gonna throw someone under the bus under speculation.
Yeah, I try not to do that too, Roger. I try to wait and hear the story, but I understand. But I do understand where coach is coming from. But I try to say, if we don't know, then we really don't know. I guess that's the truth of the matter. If we don't know, then we really don't know. So, but there's something
told us because they threw Jermaine under the bus. They threw her under the bus, and and I'm just looking at it like, okay, so now they threw Jermaine under the bus.
Now hold on a second, coach. Hold on a second.
Go ahead.
Now, when you're the champion, no one should be able to throw your ass under the bus.
Oh, come on, Roger. Come on now.
She got thrown under the bus.
No. When you have the championship belt, that's what you signed up for. Mm-hmm. You signed up knowing that you could fight anybody at 145. Mm-hmm. If you're not willing to do that, then no one got thrown under the bus.
So basically, Roger, what you're saying is, if she signed up and she was the champion, and it was not in her contract that I would be the champion unless I'm fighting Chris Cyborg. If that's not in your contract, then you feel like kind of what happened was right, and not what's right, but the criticism was fair. Basically, is what you're saying.
Okay, how would you define a champion?
They fight all comers. I guess they fight. That's what they do. They defend their title.
You got to defend the belt.
Right. And so you can't have an asterisk said I'll fight anybody except for Chris Cyborg at
that's 145. What I'm saying.
Yeah, so you may be sympathetic or have a sympathetic ear or say it's to me it's apples and oranges. You can't compare the two. If Megan wasn't the champion, and I'm not, I'm not cutting Megan any slack on the deal, but if I felt that, there's a reason she pulled out of the fight. She never gave that explanation. She said it was personal problems. You should respect, as a personal issue, you should respect that, because that could be a whole host of things. And she's training now. And, if she actively is sitting there sticking her nose and, calling Cyborg out or anybody out, then that's one thing. I think, she did call Cyborg out. I think she was doing that to get into the UFC. So mission accomplished. But if Megan was the champion and ducked somebody, then she deserved all the heat and then some, what Jermaine got. But but hold on.
She was running her mouth.
Okay, well, fair enough. Well, then when you run it, you can get, like Valentina says, if you talk, you're going to get punched in the mouth. So,
Megan was afraid to get punched in the mouth in that fight. That's why that fight happened.
But anyway, I mean, there's speculation, but back to the deal is, if you're the champion, you're holding the title, and you're just unwilling to fight, they should strip you. You know, they
Mhm.
should strip you. So that's
And I
I don't.
completely agree with that. I agree with that because I even got the videos on that.
Mhm.
And Jermaine was shocked that she got stripped. I mean, I mean, you shocked? What you mean you shocked? Come on.
Mhm.
I mean, damn well you're supposed to fight Chris Cyborg.
Mhm.
I'm just trying to establish, like, they both
Well,
were
that
saying they would
division.
fight her, and then they both said no, I ain't gonna fight her.
Well,
That's my thing.
well, connect the dots, and there's not a lot of dots to connect in that division. At 145, there was Jermaine, there was Holly, there was Cyborg in the
Yeah,
UFC.
that's it.
That was it in the
That was
UFC.
it. That's it.
So,
Mhm.
so if you won that fight, Stevie Wonder
Yeah.
could have told you who you were going to fight.
That's true. That's true. That's so true. You knew that was coming next. They
Yeah,
have a saying that goes deeper than that says
but
Stevie
see,
Wonder and Ray Charles can see that Stevie Wonder's blind and Ray Charles, unfortunately is dead, and he can even see it. So
now there's a guy, gentleman, in the comment section. He said, "Well, what about Jermaine's hand surgery? Was that real?" And I'm gonna start that one. I'm like, well, Jermaine said she needed hand surgery, but see, the thing is, she didn't go get hand surgery after that
mm,
Cyborg fight. So that's why I criticize her. I
mhm.
criticize her heavy. I'm like, nah, come on. And now when she fought, when she's about to fight Renault, okay, when her hand got to like a very bad point where she couldn't close a fist, okay, where she went and got surgery, okay.
Well, let me comment on this. And again,
Good,
it's more of an education, not a criticism. But
Go,
good.
go for it.
the one thing that the UFC does is they take care of their fighters that get injured during a fight.
Hmm.
So if she got injured during a fight and they didn't get that taken care of, that's on her and her team. That's her and her management team that have to get that stuff handled. So,
There you go.
if you're a fighter, that's your tool. Your hand is your number one tool.
Absolutely.
That's like being a carpenter without a damn hammer. That's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
being a computer scientist without a
Mhm.
computer.
Mhm.
So, for that's to me is if you had a hand injury, you should have went and got it handled. Now I know if you're in a foreign country, it may be, again, benefit of the doubt. It may
Mhm.
be a little more complicated, but you could always come to the US and get that handled, or the UFC is very good about working that stuff out, as
Mhm.
well. So you gotta, again, when you can take a bits and pieces and say, well, what about this, or what about that, or what about this? The bottom line is she didn't get the title taken away because of her hand. She just refused to fight.
So okay, so isn't that the same thing as Megan accepting a fight in the UFC, signing a contract, and then not fighting Cyborg, so she can get into the UFC? In that sort of similar?
Well, let me tell you this: Megan hasn't got paid yet.
Oh.
Okay.
So you're going to jump. Like I said, is you're going to criticize. I'm going to criticize somebody that's getting paid in the UFC.
Mhm.
So I'm not cutting Megan any slack
Mhm.
on the fact that what she said to get into the UFC. If it's obvious that
Bad.
that's what happened,
Mhm.
but she's
Yeah.
here. She's here.
And it
Supposedly,
worked.
she's.
It
And it
was pretty
worked.
bad. It was pretty
It,
bad. It was a bad thing. It made her
but
look bad.
but she is
But
here, coach. She is in the UFC now, so it
but
works.
but
Not officially. She ain't had a fight.
not
That's
officially,
true. That's true. That's true.
but she's training at the Performance Institute. In order to do that, you have to be on the roster. So she's
Mm.
signed. She's definitely signed,
Okay.
and so that's a fact. Now, you guys were the other day were arguing about her fighting Cyborg. Now that was a whole interesting conversation there. But
Mhm.
talking about ducking, I mean, there's obviously different levels of ducking.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely different level.
Yeah.
Celebrate.
And that doesn't matter of whether whether your hair is blonde, whether your hair is black, whether you're or any of
Ducking,
that stuff.
yeah, ducking is ducking. How about we just say it like that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
ducking is ducking, and if you
Mhm.
want to say Megan duck Cyborg, and that's what you believe, I'm not going to convince you or argue with you.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think eventually you'll find out why.
Mhm.
I think over time that fight didn't happen. I think in fairness, I'm personally going to just wait till that time before I jump on the
Now,
thrashing bandwagon.
Well, I'll be buying my time then, because this is I got to hear this. Oh, I got to hear this. Okay.
well, I think with Roger, and if I've taken what you said wrong, Roger, please correct me. But I think what Roger is stressing here is that he's not excusing or even saying necessarily saying it's okay. Or he's not even saying necessarily that Megan didn't duck Cyborg, but I think he's shining a bigger light onto Jermaine because she was a champion who was fighting and getting paid. So I think what he's basically saying is the reason Jermaine might have received more criticism because she had the strap, she had the title, she was a fighter there getting paid. And like he said, it was only 3 girls around. So it was kind of like if you beat, it makes you think, did you really think you were going to beat Holly? Because you kind of knew that was coming next. So
well, let me throw this to you. I mean,
Yeah.
and I'm going to say, okay, the 2 of you guys are in the UFC, and your ultimate goal should be to get the title, right? I mean, that's the whole. If you're there just to hang out or be a gatekeeper, you really, I mean, then you shouldn't even accept a title fight. But once you become the champion in the UFC, I mean, you can look and see that's when the fighters start making their money as champions. So you had you had the gold in your hand, and you have the golden hand which you've worked for your whole life. You should fight to hold on to it as long as you should fight to the death to hold on to it. That's my opinion. If that's what you want to do, but to just let it go and not even, I mean, you were talking about dollars and cents. I mean, how much would you fight Cyborg for if you were Jermaine?
As much as I could possibly get ×2. That's just me talking, but I'm
Right.
saying it would have to be a large amount, and it would definitely be the biggest purse of my career. And I'm sure that's what she was getting offered. I don't know the technicalities of what was offered to her for that fight. Maybe you guys do, but it would have to be a hefty price.
Right. But anyway, that's we weren't even, Jermaine wasn't even a discussion. She just got brought in because there was a parity between saying, well, why did Jermaine catch so much criticism and
Absolutely
Megan did not? I mean, I think you're comparing apples to oranges. I really
Roger, before we leave the Jermaine, and we will definitely go somewhere, but before we leave the Jermaine discussion, what do you think, just your personal feelings? We had Lavelle ask a question that I think is pretty pertinent here. What did you think about her response, just saying, I won't fight a drug cheat? I'm sure her whole response on it. What did you feel about that?
Oh boy.
Here's the deal in all this. I mean, ultimately, Cyborg years ago, obviously she had an issue, and she's faced a longer legacy of that haunting her than anybody. Okay, and then the issue came up, and her management team made a, when you go to a doctor and whatever her situation was after a big weight cut, the doctor prescribed her some medicine. Okay. Now, after that event, she was ultimately given a therapeutic exemption, which, should have been the right method, would have been to get that before taking it. But, with USADA, and the UFC, well, it's actually USADA, somebody's got to think about that. And you've got to ask, you've got, reach out. I mean, we do on our team, I mean, we probably are over, OCD level on it, finding out, well, because we don't want something happening, if you have to take this or take this, or, there's, just even over the prescription over the counter, any of that, you need to check on it. And so, I don't know the circumstances, the timeline of why it was prescribed, but ultimately she was cleared. And, and at that point in time, until they have extensive testing, they have not got Chris for anything. I don't see why. I don't think that that's a valid point. I really personally, I don't. I mean, if she's tested a lot, and if they were going to get somebody, if they were going to get her, they're going to get her. If not, I don't think it's fair to say anything like that. I actually think it's kind of a statement of, it's libel, or, something like that.
It should be careful. I feel like you should be careful when you make statements like that. Like that could cross the line to something else, like you just said. So
Like,
that's
why she didn't
really good insight.
My thing is, how come, my only question, I had to look at it like, why didn't Megan and Jermaine, and especially Jermaine, they faced off against Cyborg. They both did, they did it. They did like a little, I guess, impromptu face off.
Okay.
They could have said everything they needed to say right then and there. But again, why they probably didn't say that? Because of the repercussions that probably could ensue upon, just coming right out and saying it to somebody's face. Because that I mean, you really could have said it. I mean, why wait to get on social media? Why wait to have an interview about it? She was right there in your face for you to discuss your issues with her.
Are you basically saying that you felt Jermaine should have told Cyborg, "I think you're a drug cheat" to her face? Is what you're saying?
Yeah, should have told
Yeah.
her if she really was, that confident and, well, I ain't gonna fight her. Well, okay, she had the opportunity. My thing is with these two in particular, and I do agree more so Jermaine because she had the strap,
Yeah.
but don't you guys are right there. They were trying to be buddy buddy with Cyborg, and then it's like they go on social media and then boom, they start saying all this stuff. Like, that's a good question. I mean, how the hell are they gonna explain this?
Well, I think that as we like look into it and we go deeper into it, that it's kind of, I think both cases are, and as Roger said, and I think it's very fair to point out that maybe something could come out down the road. But I think in the case of Jermaine, I think it's already been explained. I think we kind of all feel like we already know, and a lot of us feel
And
like
it
we
was,
know with Megan too. It's
and
kind of
to be
explained.
honest with you, it was a disappointment for me because I'd always been a fan of Jermaine's talent and
Mm-hmm.
her skill set.
Yes, sir.
So to me, it was because I'm a fan too. Actually, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Coach knows I'm a fan of numerous fighters, and
Sure.
you might be surprised of who they are.
He's a fan of a lot of fighters. Trust me.
So
Yeah.
as a fan, I was disappointed when all that went down because I thought it would be an interesting matchup. I mean, and again, if I'm a proponent of women fighters, I think that you fought all this time to get the pinnacle, and if you have an opportunity to make to payday to let once you have the championship and then walk away from it, essentially, I think that's really, 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 as Coach says, how are you going to explain that?
Right. Coach, you got Roger. Coach, you made it. Coach, you made it. You got Roger.
if I can get him to start saying Pavel has a plan, then I think we'll be on the same page. Then 'cause Pavel, my guy, man. I'm telling you, Roger, my ultimate goal one day. I want to have a conversation with Pavel, man. I don't care if it's 10 minutes, because
Hey, well, Pavel's happy today. He actually got to ride in a MiG jet today.
Oh, wow.
Valentina and Antonina were invited to a charity sporting clays event, a shoot off, and so they went, and in honor of those two being there as celebrities. There was a gentleman that collected planes that was one of the board members of the event. He actually put Pavel in one of his jets, and they flew over the event and did a flyby.
Nice. Yeah, that's really cool. That is really cool. Now, Roger, there was something that was said earlier, and I think some new people have joined on here, and this is kind of giving you the format to speak on Team Shevchenko's behalf with this. We had I saw two people mention that this is going back to Valentina and her next moves coming up. I had a few people mention here, if you guys technically lost the fight, and you had stated earlier that you're looking for a championship fight back at 135. If you guys decide to go back to 135, why does Valentina not feel? We know you've answered it, but answer it again, maybe. Why do you guys not feel like you need to go get back in line after the last Amanda fight?
When you're at the front of the line and no one's kicked you to the end of the line, there's no reason to go back to the end of the line.
Talk to him, Roger.
I'm serious. I mean, and that's even conversations with the UFC. So, I mean, if our discussion with them is moving forward, and they, I can't tell you exactly what they have said, but I can just tell you our plans are for her, fighting for a title next.
I think the end of this is you guys generally don't look at this, and from what I get from you, she's not gonna approach her next training camp. You guys aren't talking. You guys legitimately do not feel like a loser at all right now, right?
No.
Am I correct in saying that? Mm-hmm.
Oh no, not at all. I mean, that goes with said if Valentina was if they would have felt that she would have lost, or we would have felt that she would have lost, I mean, that's a whole different conversation. I mean, just when you have two of the highest level fighters fight, and there's obviously more than a majority feel that Valentina wins that fight or won that fight, you can't accept defeat and say I'm going to the back of the line. If they're going to tell you, well, this is what you have to do, then obviously you can kick and scream, but that's what you have to do. But right now, that's not what we're on. That's not in our plans right now.
Amen. I'm glad they're not, because Me and there's another subscriber named Sean Haynes. Him and I, we definitely we're huge, Shevchenko fans. Period. We're fans of the sisters, so it was kind of like him and I were talking, and we were like, man, what's Valentina gonna do? And I was like, well, man, I think she gonna, and just before she first lost, I was saying, Sean, man, is Valentina gonna go back to 135 and try again? But now you've already answered the question, so him and I were kind of like relieved because we're like, okay, because we definitely appreciate what they do and just the conversations we're able to have about Valentina and just the skill set. That's what we admire the most, the skill set.
She has, I mean, she has more opportunities now than she would if she was just at 135. So that's a good thing. This 125 division is timing's perfect, and I think Amanda, in my opinion, I think Amanda and Valentina will see each other. Again, when that happens, we'll just have to wait and see when that happens.
Man.
And I think it's been great. I definitely don't want to keep you here too long, Roger.
Yeah,
We talking. We do appreciate this, and want to say everybody who joined in, thank you. And I do want to say to all the Amanda Nunes fans out there, if you go back and listen, Roger has been as professional can be. And this is absolutely hadn't been him or anyone attacking Amanda. We've all said and spoken very highly of Amanda and her skill set. And at the end of the day, Team Shevchenko feels like they won the fight. There are a lot of people who come in the comment section and feel the same way. So we do appreciate it, Roger. Coach, what do you have here on us for the end here?
And I have to kind of make people aware, what if, I mean, it was a close fight, so we can't argue with Roger, but really, what is he gonna say? Oh, my fighter sucked that day. She really lost. No, what is he gonna say? It'll be a dumb because we talk about the money management of the UFC, and I had to learn about it. Because even my first interview with Roger, he was educating me on the money thing. How, like, me being a fan, we don't understand the money issues and how when you say certain things, you could affect your fighter. So it's like, okay, what is he supposed to say? Is he gonna say, well, Valentina sucked? So yeah, so he can be biased because that's his fighter. He's supposed to be. If he was sitting here big up in Amanda, yeah, Amanda, what? I'd be like, what? Wait a minute. Now you're supposed to be a bigger Bullet fan than I am, sir. Wait a minute, you can't say this. I would have been like, no, you can't talk about Valentina like this now.
But the thing about this, Coach, and I want to point this out just from my perspective, watching Valentina's interview and especially talking with Roger today, this is something that I don't think is being said for lip service by Team Shevchenko at all. This seems to be a very real, genuine feeling. We won this fight. We were not losers. We were not defeated. Am I correct in saying that, Roger?
Oh, that's 100%. I mean, just like I mentioned to you before, I mean, we knew this. The commission from Edmonton, they said immediately that I guess the media had asked them. They said, we're not going to even entertain an appeal on overturning the judge's decision. So making that appeal was silly. But like I told you, when you have 9 warnings for a foul, that is a foul in the new rule set. That's something that we felt we could appeal and possibly got some traction on. But again, to Valentina's credit, she did not want to file that appeal. I mean, from a business standpoint, we wanted to do it, but from a martial artist standpoint, she didn't want to do that. So, and we have to respect her decision. I mean, she's not just a special fighter; she's a special person. So, and that's, as Coach said, that's just the way that is.
God. So
that's twice. Getting all your quotes out there. It's 2 of them.
That's fine, man. He can say I'm all he wants. So all these people who saying that Valentina was a poor sport, and I kept telling people that it was an emotional moment from a person who's rarely emotional, who basically she was in the heat of the moment. This don't seem like a poor sport here, because a poor sport would have been like, yep, I won. Let's go and appeal. So all you Valentina detractors, you just got debunked.
That whole thing. I mean, it's it's always interesting to judge when you're not in someone's shoes. I mean,
Absolutely.
I played
Yes,
Division I
sir.
college football,
Mhm.
and I can tell you, my whole life, I've been I've won many sportsmanship awards. But I tell you what, I've had it out on the field. I've had fights on the field.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
I've talked more mad stuff than you would ever know.
Mhm.
But I didn't start it. I'll tell you, I didn't start it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like I said, as Valentina, they asked her, well, what did Amanda say? I mean, she just knew the man was on top of her, talking trash.
Mhm.
And like she said, you talk to me, I'm gonna punch you. You could get punched.
Yeah.
And the fight was over, everybody. The fight was over.
You're right.
Still on top of her, just
But that's
taunting.
but that moment, you can't have just moments in time freeze someone, define someone and their character. That's just ridiculous. Because every one of us, if you take a snapshot of our lives in any given day, you can find something and you could run it over and over and over and put the PR behind it, and then all of a sudden, the next thing you know is you got you could throw anybody under it and say and create a story of
Mhm.
what somebody is and what they're not.
Yeah, and
So
I think that's the easy thing to do is to look at, like you said, the PR angle could come in. But, we were just trying to clear it up. And like people have heard that we've been respectful. You've been very respectful. Again, hats off to you. You've been very respectful to Amanda and her skill set, but you're just speaking your truth. You're just speaking your truth. You're just speaking your truth of how your team feels about the fight. And there's
well,
nothing wrong with it.
we'll see that, and at the end of those rounds, that's actually gamesmanship that comes in.
Yeah.
If you're standing over the top of the fighter talking trash, someone's on their back, a judge could look at that and say, that's dominance.
Mm-hmm.
That's positional dominance, and
Mm-hmm.
so that's just part of the gamesmanship of the fight. But you saw after the
Mm-hmm.
fight, everybody shook hands, everything was
Yeah.
fine, and that's just the way it should be.
That's just go ahead and say you were going to quote Coach again. I know you're going. That's just folks. That's just the way that is. It was coming again.
Way
Yeah.
that
So
is.
I think it was great. Now, Coach and
Yes.
I'm sorry, Roger here. Do we have any? You guys want to say anything in closing to anybody? Roger, do you want to say anything to the Valentina's fans? Anything they should know?
Go ahead, or I'll go ahead and go. Hey, I just
Mhm.
want to thank you guys. I mean, this is a good platform. I'll just tell you how I actually kind of got hooked up with coaches. One of the things as a manager, as part of my job, is kind of get a feel or kind of a temperature of how people feel or react. And most good managers, they should be doing that as well, understanding what people, how people feel, what they think about a fighter. Not that it's necessarily going to change anything, but they need to know. And so I stumbled across, it was CSH Boxing at the time, and Coach was putting out some videos of Valentina, and some parts of it was accurate, some parts were getting accurate, but because
Yeah.
because people really didn't know Valentina. You guys actually know, you guys still don't know the extent of her skill set. You're
Mhm.
just seeing the tip of the iceberg. I mean, there's a lot more under the surface that you're going to see at 125. So, thank you guys for coming here, listening to the show. Thank you for supporting Valentina. Thank you for supporting Coach's show. Eric, it's great to have you on now.
Thank you, sir.
All the guys on the panel, Lavelle, you bring, good flavor to the panel. I listen quite a bit. And when you're on, I enjoy it. I like hearing you get fired up about Ronda, and hopefully,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's his boo.
and
That's his boo.
I'll throw this out there: if Ronda comes back, we'll be the first one to raise our hands to fight her.
All right. Okay. 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 Okay.
Oh
That's a good ending
man,
point. You
we
can't
got
end it any better than that. You can't end it better.
we got to have Lavelle on the next one, man. Lavelle, we would have had you on this one, man, but we didn't want it to get too many people on it because
Mhm.
we wouldn't been to hear everybody's thoughts. So that's the only reason why. But next time, Lavelle, definitely, man. And he just said he loved
You
Ronda.
see it's coming. You see it's coming. I love Ronda, by the way. Tell him that's your boo, man. That's what he knows. That's my boo.
She just got married, Lavelle.
He said he don't care. He said he don't care.
Yeah.
But no, I'd like to thank everybody too. Thank you guys for having me on. Like I said, brand new guy here in YouTube, Amazing Eric Sports, brand new to this whole thing. Coach is great. I've just like you, Roger. I was a fan of Coach when he was CHS Boxing. That's when I started being a fan. So I'm just actually humbled for you guys to have me on. I really appreciate all you guys listening, and tell people who missed it. Go tell them, hey man, you need to go to CHS Combat Sports, pull up that podcast and check it out. So I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, and I just want to end it with you and Roger, man. That's it.
All right.
Okay.